Ranked 6th in the angelic hierarchy, worship is the second sphere power of the body of a giant warship. In contrast to kinship, a power used for transporting angelic armies across the battlefield, worship uses the divine power of God to decimate his enemies. Worship's entrance into the fray is a sign that the battle is reaching its climax. Past followers of Laguna believed to sacrifice their souls and become part of the ship was to receive the highest form of bliss. Forged by divine hands using the brilliance of the sun itself, Resplendence resides in the first sphere class thrones, ranked 3rd in the angelic hierarchy. Resplendence's radiant form can overturn the laws of nature, turning night to day as it simply peers over the horizon. Among those who gaze into its luminous presence, the pious weep and bow before it, while it sears the eyes of those who lack faith, throwing them to the ground in submission. A bright light seeps through the mask's crack. It is a light unlike anything else found on Earth, the light of the right eye. Long ago, a tyrannical man was said to have led the Umbra witches and Lumen sages to their demise. Legends claim he killed his wife, sabotaged his daughter, and deceived the people, all for the sake of building a new universe with the eyes of the world. He was said to have achieved an omniscience almost equal to that of a god. How this man came to obtain his ambition remains unknown, yet a glimpse of the truth can be seen in the fragment of history in the prophet revealed to Bayonetta. A young man had been called from the Vigrid of 500 years past to modern day. In his hands he held a weapon ready to strike at his enemy. His name is Baldur. Later, he would be known as the Tyrant Sage. In the prophet's vision, however, he seems only lost in rage, seeking revenge for the death of his wife, Rosa. Chapter 4, The True Vigrid Chronicles, Saavedra. Baldur achieved his revenge, yet another battle awaited him, an endless battle with the soul of Aesir, trapped inside him until his death. My dear, sweet child, fear not, for I am always watching over you. Epilogue, The True Vigrid Chronicles, Saavedra. Was it reality or all just a dream? Finding herself in the midst of the Great War 500 years ago, Bayonetta was suddenly attacked by a young boy with the exact appearance of Loki. After the symbol of their clan, the clock tower, was destroyed, the Umbra began to scatter, routed by their enemy. Demons and angels filled the sky, warring with each other in a violent swirl of chaos. Bayonetta knew where these events would lead. She was now faced with a momentous choice. Would she change the course of history? However, the possibility that was all a trap was never far from her mind. She had traveled from the past to the future, and then back again. The second time in her life she was made to leap through the dimensions of time and space. The boy's mouth slowly contorted into a grin. His smile, how he stood there looking at Bayonetta, made his intent clear. I shall take back the power which belongs to me, the power of the eyes of the world. You shall not interfere. Chapter 5, The True Vigrid Chronicles, Saavedra. Light, darkness, and chaos. When the three worlds were divided at the dawn of time, Aesir was chosen to rule the world of chaos. Possessing the power of the Overseer, he existed in a dimension different from our own, watching the infinite possibilities that layered to form history from the viewpoint surpassing that of time and space. His name, Aesir, is said to signify God and meaning it, yet it has no connection to faith, morals, or religious teaching. Aesir is simply a supernatural being that could not be categorized by mankind any other way. If the legends passed down in Noaton contain any truth, it was mankind itself who divided the god of chaos into his two personalities, Loptr and Loki. Aesir bestowed upon humans free will by giving them the eyes of the world. This, however, also gave birth to the ideas of triumph and defeat, truth and falsehood. People awakened to feelings of hate, betrayal, jealousy, and humiliation. The power of free will sparked an unstoppable surge throughout humanity that eventually led Aesir himself to wish to reclaim the power he had originally relinquished. For someone who can travel through time and space, to take back the powers of the Overseers to control the fate of the entire world across all time. Yet, humanity's choices had sown the seeds of evil within Aesir. Whatever course of action Aesir may take can only be retribution for humanity's sin. It is said that a curse is cast upon the families of those who die on unnatural death while bearing feelings of hatred and ill will. Resentment, born from the sludge of Inferno, is an exact manifestation of those bitter, repressed emotions inside humanity. Once it has chosen a victim, it will follow them forever, no matter the distance, until it can tie them down and make them feel the weight of the pains of hell. Its tenacity is far beyond that of the other demons of Inferno. and resentment is said to have the ability to open the gates of hell through sheer willpower. Witnessing this demon gives testimony to the truly unthinkable power of grudges humans find fit to hold in their hearts and never release. Phantasmaraneae nests upon a sea of magma, deep within the furthest reaches of Inferno. Rarely seen upon the face of the earth, even sightings of the demon in hell are a seldom event, leading to its name, which means phantom spider. While having the frightening appearance of a spider, it is a curious beast, and should one have the good fortune to encounter the Phantasmaraneae, one should treat it with care and respect, in hope of receiving rare treasures and secrets in return. The Phantasmaraneae are growing increasingly violent, perhaps due to recent occurrences of unnatural phenomena in the human world. Sightings of the creatures outside their molten lairs may be related to this change in behavior. Anyone who encounters one is advised to take caution. Phantasmaraneae can spit magma from their stomachs, capable of incinerating victims within seconds. A demon who lies in wait for pious believers to be granted entrance to Paradiso so he can slice them apart and cast them to Inferno during their ascension. The 6 swords sheathed in his back represent gluttony, profanity, doubt, idiocy, rage, and arrogance. Each blade awakens feelings in victims of its respective sin when cut. At first, those who witness Sloth are filled with joy to reaffirm the truth in their religion. In the next moment, they are filled with sadness as they are tossed to the darkness of hell. Not only concerned with humans, Sloths have been responsible for countless fallen angels. A woman who doused herself in the mandrake poison and took her own life as a means of getting revenge on the husband who left her. The poison continued through her skin and devoured her soul. Consumed by delusions and hallucinations, she was at last reincarnated in Inferno. Myth places her as the young daughter of a noble estate, but none of her past visage can be determined from her current demon form. She searches the bottom of hell for the most exquisite souls, then injects poison into their nerves to make them eternal lovers at her palace. Insatiable desire and obsession have painted her heart so thickly that she will never know peace, not even with the sacrifices of 1,000 souls, or 1,000,000. An immortal man feared as the most dangerous demon in the entire barren wasteland of Inferno. Freely traveling between the human world and Inferno, it is nearly impossible to guess his location at any given time. His sudden visits to Inferno are said to be for hunting its savage, ruthless demons and taking their souls. It is rumored he was once a resident of Paradiso with the power of creation, but witnessing his acts in Inferno, most would think of him more suited for destruction, though his principal purpose for collecting the souls of Inferno's denizens is to use them in making his weapons. He himself is never seen sporting anything but other than his bare fists, true testament to their unbridled power. As the famed weaponsmith of Inferno, he destroys to create, then creates to destroy. His true objective is still a mystery, though perhaps he is waiting for someone to appear who will finally have the power to undo him. Damn, been a long time since I had a workout like that. You come back soon, dig? I'll be here, waiting. Again. Queen of the River Styx, the boundary between humanity and Hades. The moths born from the magical power that flows from her body are charged with luring the souls of sinners into Inferno. By trading their soul to Madama Styx, one is able to obtain great power and knowledgeable counsel. A goddess of Inferno who controls time and the sun. It is said that she can determine a person's fate simply by gazing upon the long shadow that forms between her body and the light extending from the lands of the dead. By binding a contract with Khepri and forfeiting their soul, one can gain an almost infinite knowledge of time and the secret technique to control it. An omniscient being formed by a miraculous unison of the powers of Paradiso and Inferno. The past leaders of the Umbra and Lumen clans, though they were aware of Omne's existence, were unable to summon it to this realm. It took the combined power of light and darkness, united in the bond of father and daughter, to finally summon Omne successfully. Possessing the qualities of both darkness and light, it can defeat even the most dissonant of chaos. Inferno. The cruelest, most ruthless place in existence. Humans are said to end up in this hellish world upon meeting an untimely end. In Inferno, power controls everything. War between its demonic inhabitants is endless, and it isn't uncommon for rank to quickly change hands. I've been picking up a thing or two about the place of this bar I've been frequenting. Recently, just like in our world, there are some strange things occurring, and the denizens are starting to get a little restless. The owner of this bar advised me to keep my distance, told me it might not be a place where I can get by on my good looks alone, like that place exists. Even if it did, it's not like I could find my way there even if I wanted to. I keep mentioning this bar, but I'll have to keep its particulars to a minimum. I've made a deal with the owner that I won't disclose its location. It's too good of a source of information to leak where it is anyway. Okay, just a hint. It's a bar in the same city as the office my dad left behind. The bar keeps a low profile, tucked away in one of the darker parts of town. I wouldn't say it's the best place to take a date, but the owner's always got good stories. I end up getting most of the info I'm looking for there. It doesn't come cheap, though. When you catch the bartender in a good mood, he'll tell you some strange tales. Worlds that are like something out of a kid's story to us. Paradiso, Inferno. He speaks about them with descriptions so realistic that you can get lost in the story pretty easily. And before you know it, you've been listening to him talk the entire night. He's a strange guy, though. The few rare times I get to look past his sunglasses at those blood-stained, glowing red eyes, the gaze is so chilling I think it might freeze my very soul. He always says you won't find a nicer angel anywhere you look, but something tells me that's just your run-of-the-mill demon joke. There is a balance that exists in all things. Finding it isn't the easiest thing in the world, but when you do, few things give you a better sense of accomplishment. Balance has a great deal of meaning to our world. The three realms our world is divided into, light, darkness, and chaos, have been carefully balanced as the trinity of realities, so as not to interfere with one another. Although we say three realms, they originally existed as one. The split caused the balance between these worlds to sometimes be as delicate as if walking across thin ice. If one realm were to eventually acquire power greater than the others, the balance of the three realms would easily fall into anarchy. There are some with the ability to travel to Purgatorio, the realm between realms, or use gates to travel back and forth between different realms, sometimes causing chaos and confusion. Irresponsible use of this power can cause monumental problems for the Trinity. It can lead to wars between realms and devastating natural disasters. At least, if I'm to believe the words of a certain bartender I've been spending too much time with. Perhaps these natural disasters happening within the realms are some sign that this collapse in balance between the three realms is already underway. Which reminds me, there have been some unnatural occurrences happening to me as well that can only be explained by a crisis sweeping all realms of existence. Getting my coat stuck in that car door, getting turned down by 3 girls in the same week. What other reason could there be other than foul play in the balance of the Trinity? The witches are gone from this universe. They were said to have been killed off one by one during the malicious witch hunts that once spread through Europe. At least, that's what's written in the books. The real truth is a little more complicated. The mass slaughter known as the witch hunts of Vigrid was, in truth, a war of mythical proportions. The Lumen sage responsible for the war launched a conflict that expanded beyond just humanity, reaching into Inferno and Paradiso as well. The Angels' offensive was so overpowering that the Umbra were completely wiped out, but in the aftermath, this destructive fate also meant the Lumen, and both clans were wiped from history. As I researched the Umbra and Lumen, who are considered the overseers of history, I learned that what we see with our eyes and hear with our ears isn't always the truth I thought it to be. An Umbra witch who survived the witch hunts of the past. What sort of monumental secrets are locked away in her destiny? They unfold even now, in the unending cycle of life and death. Crazy to think that something that could decide the fate of the universe is taking place in Noeton at this very instant. At least, that's what my instinct's telling me it's happening. I'll use this prized nose of mine to sniff out whatever is actually going on. Similar to the secret underground passageways you expect to find behind bookshelves in old, looming mansions, Vigrid was full of rooms with secret pathways and training rooms the Umbra used. I found that out a while back when I was researching the Umbra. Later I learned my old man had stumbled upon the same thing. Anyway, as witches draw their strength from the darkness, they would set up facilities that allowed them to train indoors while it was light outside. It could be that they hated the sunlight, or maybe it was a measure they took to keep their secret arts as far from the public eye as possible. Most of these hidden passages were forgotten after the witch hunts. Time passed and the city developed. Most of the inhabitants probably would never think there could be some secret path in the very house they live in. When you think about it, maybe they're happier not knowing. At their peak, the secret arts of the Umbra witches had advanced to the point they would give even today's modern science a run for its money. Not many records remain of what the Umbra accomplished. Most were lost with the witch hunts of the past. There are, however, still many wall paintings depicting what the Umbra were capable of. On certain wall paintings, there are depictions of a gigantic jet-black warrior the witches would call forth in the middle of their most desperate battles. I guess you would call it a robot? Still, it's not like the robots you see nowadays. These machines were like something straight out of a science fiction flick. Considering it's a heavily armored powered suit from the Umbra, I guess Umbran armor would be a good name for it, right? Similar to how the witches would control their infernal demons, Umbran armor is manipulated by connecting the machine's framework with a witch's hair, using it as a catalyst for the magic powers needing to move the armor like it was their own hands and feet. Any witch that hopped into that iron suit could take down entire armies of angels in the blink of an eye. Sadly, that still wasn't enough to save their clan from elimination. It is said that God waits at the top of Fimbulventr, guiding those who visit him with his wisdom so they may find their true path. To those living below, the top of the mountain looked to always be facing the most harsh, frigid conditions, but the Sovereign Quarters somehow remained isolated from all this, an area both peaceful and serene, with a perfect view of the starry sky. Perhaps this was necessary to keep an accurate record of the stars' movement and the current happenings in the world. It is said that learned scholars of the past had a magnificent grasp of astronomy. I think it is probably because God imparted this wisdom unto them. What's piqued my interest is a rumor about gates leading to both Inferno and Paradiso at the mountain's summit. Maybe God had those gates near his dwelling to watch over those worlds along with ours. Seeing if they really exist would be worth checking out. The path to the mountain has crumbled away as time triumphed over it, leaving the other side blocked off forever. But to a fearless adventurer like myself, that sounds like just the challenge I've been waiting for. I came to this town to find out the truth behind the origins of the legends of Aesir, but I never imagined I'd witness the story's conclusion with my own eyes. I don't think I can accurately sum up this century-spanning tale here, but I'll give a brief account. Long, long ago, God imparted his power to mankind by giving them the eyes of the world, marking the dawn of free will. With the passing of his power, a new life was created. His name was Loptr. Loptr had the ability to absorb the evil thoughts of mankind that began to flow throughout the world. His power grew, and he dreamed of one day having a power equal to the god from which he was created. After accumulating a massive amount of energy, Loptr attempted to steal the eyes of the world, but failed. By reincarnating himself, God fled to our modern era, where he was followed by Loptr. Loptr began a plan lasting 500 years involving Inferno, Paradiso, the Lumen, and the Umbra. As our world descended into chaos, Loptr began the final part of his plan. Yet in the end, not being a fully realized god, he couldn't foresee everything. A number of which crossed paths with God himself, as if fate had miraculously aligned. The two came together to stop Loptr's plan, in turn saving the world. Maybe it wasn't the perfect ending everyone hoped for, but our human world is still alive and kicking, so that's something. The eyes of the world have lost their power, but the fear of humans losing their free will has been erased. Perhaps the eyes of the world have dissolved into our world and dispersed their power silently across humanity. I can't say I really know what's going to happen next, but that's what makes tomorrow interesting, I suppose. As long as I'm still around, I'm going to keep searching for the truth and let it be known. Seeker of Truth, Luca Redgrave.